evening, we're going to call the meeting to order. First item of business is accentuate the positive. If I may, before we get started with our admin sharing, I asked Brent and John to have some members of the maintenance crew come to be recognized here today. And just want to say thank you. They came in on the snow day and worked their butts off. I don't think we have a snow blower, do we? This was all.
We do now.
We do now. We do now.
Powered one or a human one?
It's a power.
Okay. Or a
I
human
think it
one?
was around 1 o'clock on Thursday when we came in on the snow day.
Yeah.
That I was calling around until I found one and purchased it and we used it on Friday.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, they came in and got our schools ready to go, as ready as you could with that much snow. And I just really appreciate the effort. And this is something I would like us to start doing a little bit more. It's just recognizing the great stuff that's happening with students and staff when it comes up. And so, Brent, I'll have you say a few words, but we have some certificates for you all. And I don't know if we want to read all of those or.
Yeah, we can, there's a number of them here and.
And I want to add to what I really was touching was hearing about cleaning up neighbors of our schools, driveways and things like that was really, really cool to hear and just speaks to our culture and everything that we stand for here at Phoenix Talent. So thank you all, really appreciate it.
Yeah, so we have two members here. First, Robert Lund. Robert was part of a crew that helped our neighbors in Athens on the weekend get their buildings ready for Monday. And if that wasn't for the help and their superintendent and their facilities department shared that they had a tough time opening even on the Monday after all that. So thank you to Robert, his stepson, and Rich Brown was also a part of that.
Cool.
And Robert Crawford. Just really want to thank them.
It's
It
recorded.
was rumor had it was a fight for who gets to use the snow blower. I saw them doing the sidewalks. It was pretty cool. If you haven't seen those things, they shoot everywhere, and so it was fun. But just anytime we ask them to do something, and just in this instance or any instance, John and his team is ready to make sure our facilities are ready to go, and just appreciate all their work. So thank you, John.
Thank you all.
We can send to Joe's Zavala.
You bet.
Oh,
You
yeah.
bet. Joe's actually joining online too.
Oh.
I think he was at the office.
Yeah, he's online.
Come on up. John, come on up.
Oh.
You should all be.
Yeah. I didn't ask. For whole group.
Oh my God.
And then we'll all.
I don't.
We're not talking lost.
All right, sounds good.
Oh, short.
All right.
Get in front, Tommy.
All right, up here.
And I never.
Maintenance.
Thank you.
That was like every two.
You know what? I might keep mine, see if they can.
Oh, yeah, he's out there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
You can stay or you can go. Your call. Ron.
Yeah, Robert couldn't get out of your capacity. All right, are we starting with Orchard Hill today? Yeah, I don't see. Okay, I'm ready to go. Okay, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I'm Javier Del Rio, I'm the Director of Instructional Improvement and Strategic Plan Coordinator. And I've been the acting principal for the last couple of days here at Orchard Hill Elementary. Oh, what a joy. So I wanted to, no, I mean it. I think it's really joyful. And just a couple of people that I wanted to thank. So first of all, the behavior support staff, that they just continue to refine their practices. Even today, they were there in the morning working with a kid, and this is Richard Molding and Anita Hernandez. And they were not being successful with this particular child, and they just don't give up. Finally, they get a little bit of time, and instead of taking a break, they get back together and think about, okay, how we're gonna shift what we're doing because it's not working right now. And sure enough, they changed the way the adults were behaving, and the kid responded to the intervention. So it was really fun. Let me see. Also, I was working with a student today. I spent a good chunk of the day with him. And at some point I asked Ashley Sims to see if he could go to recess with the first graders, the kids, to help them out and also to get some exercise because this kid needed to go out. Just going out with his class wasn't quite the most effective thing at the moment. So he went with first graders and he was great. And Ashley Sims, I don't know if you know her, but always with a smile, I'm willing to just do whatever it takes. Took the kid in, took it out to recess, and it was just wonderful. So thank you, Ashley. And then I wanted to just thank the office support staff just for acting upon the concept of radical calmness. You know, no matter who comes to our office, sometimes we get a parent who's really upset, and we did, or somebody who is just a little bit escalated on how their emotions are being exhibited. And they're just amazing and just, we listen to you, we're here for you, let us know what's happening. So thank you to the office staff and at Orchard Hill Elementary. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board. Sean Schleif, principal at Phoenix Elementary. And my theme tonight for Accentuate the Positive is just highlighting heroes at PES. So I'm going to name a lot of names. I've already sent them to Denise, so I'll probably rattle them off a little quickly. But last week we had our Love of Learning event, which is a family engagement event where we had a dessert potluck, and then teachers were presenting data to families. We had a really great turnout. But along with that, while we were keeping kids entertained, we had a dance party. So I want to give a big shout out to Brianna Miller. She was our DJ for the dance party. A big shout out to Junior, who is our mascot, who's played by our head custodian. He came in on this evening to just celebrate and have fun with the kids. The kids loved that. We had para volunteers to help come and decorate. So I want to give a shout out to Liz Saxberry. We had childcare provided by Bertha Wengler and Crystal Meza. So just two people who stepped in and said they will do childcare for the evening. We had dessert bar coordinators, Wendy Duffy, Myrna Wolf, Shelley Akins, and Laura Millette created a beautiful spread of organizing everything to make the night go really well. And then of course the grade level teachers for presenting some really useful and positive information. We got a lot of great feedback. It was well attended, and that just, you know, we're really working on partnering with our families as a strategy to help continue to improve our academic achievements, and I think it's going to continue to pay off. Along with that, we also have an after-school math intervention that's been happening. This is our first year of doing that. We've had a lot of people participating in that and rotating through that. I want to give a big shout out to Jamar Boyd. She's our math specialist, so she's helping lead all of the lesson planning for that. But the people that have been involved in that are Jerry Lynn Bordon, Court Anderson, Myrna Wolf, Maggie Bird, Jose Villalobos, who's one of our edgy staff employees that comes to our school as a sub, but he participates in the regular happenings of our school, along with Elise Traeger, Hannah Brogmagan, Kimberly Steffen, Lilani Morris, Bubba Rylance, Brianna Fuller, and Stephanie Flores. You can see that there's like 10 people or 12 people really supporting this after school math intervention. So just want to name them personally. Finally, I have two other people that I want to recognize. We were awarded a beautiful coffee in celebration from Charlene and Tiffany because we had no exclusions for immunizations. And that's because of Lori Delgado, front office secretary, is just really wonderful about helping people navigate, giving all of that stuff done. And she also helps support our attendance incentives. And so she's just a really great resource. at the front office, so I want to really thank her. And then lastly, I just want to recognize Norma Lett. She's been a real resource for support for families during these times. So I just want to recognize all that she's been doing to help support our community. And I just want to publicly name her. That's it for me.
Thank you.
Good evening, board. Heather Love, principal over at Talon Elementary. I could say ditto, but I'm not actually say the words this time. We too had our Love of Learning last week on last Thursday, and I just want to thank Jody Emons and Nubia Pineda. They lead our family engagement team, and it was just super special evening. But the really highlight of our evening was talking with families afterwards. And I recounted this in our staff newsletter this week, but we have a new family to us. They're got a kindergarten kid and they're new to the valley and stuff, so they don't know the culture. But I was chatting with this mama as she was walking out. I said, "How'd it go?" And she was like, "Amazing, you know, Miss Kathleen, she's awesome." And she said, "I just sometimes can't believe it." And she was like tearing up. I go, "What?" She's like, "This is our little public school in this little town. Like, I'm so proud of it." I was like, "Yeah, me too. It's really great." So it's like such a compliment to have a new family, like really just feel that sense of belonging. So thanks for all of those people that were involved, pretty much the whole staff. So, and then today was a special day for us at Talent. We had OBOT finals and OBP crew, the Fantastic Four took it. Okay. Much to the chagrin of others, but they did a great job. But I want to thank Linnea Funk Morales, Heather Wolf, and Kim Sauerman, who have been leading the charge, and Glenna Roberts pops in and volunteers as well. So that's been really fun to see kids getting excited about reading. I did want to share it. I thank you also after Snowmageddon to first student, because we're calling it. Janelle and her team were just amazing. You know, like when we had to shift gears on that Monday, it was kind of crazy logistically for us, but it was just really, it felt so good and comforting to know that those bus drivers really had the skills and it wasn't easy. And they're not used to driving in snow. They did such a great job. So I wanted to thank them. And then also this is bus driver week, so bus driver appreciation week. So just really appreciate Janelle and you know everything she does and all the drivers there too. And then last but not least, wanted to invite you. We have scheduled an assembly for tomorrow at time. It got put off by Snowmageddon a couple weeks, but we have Luke Lawrence coming. He's the gentleman that came to TMS at the work. Time, but Luke and his mom being there coming tomorrow at 10 to join us, and you all invited to just speak about his experiences in school and you know the value of including differently abled kids and people in this world that we live in. So that's at 10 in the gym. If you want to come, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for reminding me, we should have had bus drivers and to recognize them as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll have to make that up. Others?
Sharon Santi, Town Rising Academy. We had the pollinator project in the classroom on Friday. That was great. We had a good turnout. And we learned that there's over 700 species of bees just in Oregon. I did not know that.
Oh, wow.
I don't know 700 species of bees. Oh, everyone got to dissect flowers and create art from their flower parts, which is cool also. And also similar to what Heather talked about, I want to thank her student Janelle for making our open classrooms more successful. They've just kind of basically done bend over backwards to create and recreate bus routes so we can get kids who don't live right there in Phoenix to come in for our open classrooms on Tuesday. And that's made a big difference for our middle school students. So I want to thank her for that. And that is it. Victoria? Go ahead. Thanks.
Casey Wilson, principal at Talent Middle School. Just wanted to highlight a few things we got going on. First and foremost, we just started ASAP Backup, which is our after-school academic program, where we're providing after-school tutoring for students. I want to give a shout out to Clive Bell. He is the main person kind of supervising that and helping out with the kids. And just our kids, it's twofold, obviously getting help academically, but also just having something after school, I think is always positive. Another program, we just started the Momentum program in Talent Maker City. So right now we have 36 kids. They're split in two groups and they go down once a week. And really just their focus is providing opportunities for marginalized youth to access to hands-on STEAM activities and learn about career options in these areas. We met with them, this is again time, it felt like forever ago, it wasn't forever. They came to us really just with this opportunity with the grant that they got and wanting to, again, find students were having a hard time connecting to school. And I know having hands-on opportunity when they can't see that connection and how important that is. And so we just started that up, and so it's early on, but I'm excited to continue to share that with you all. We received a $400 grant from Figueros. I want to give a shout out to Brent Boker. It's going to go towards new football uniforms. And he was the one that applied for the grants. And so to Brent and to Micah from Figueros. Today was the Black Youth Leadership Summit at Southern University, and we had 16 students attend that. Just an opportunity to be with other kids in the Valley, and I know they have like very empowering speakers, and just to kind of have that space where they can be themselves and see themselves. And want to give a shout out to Peter Edwards and Cynthia Rutherford, who are our BSU advisors. And then last but not least, I just want to give a shout out to a lot of our staff do this, so I can name so many, but Sue Berrigan, just a true advocate in a safe space for a lot of our kids, especially right now, more than ever. And yeah, she just continued to show up, so just wanted to name her there.
All right, good evening, board. Gail Cross, proud principal of Pirate Ship. A couple of things before I throw it over to our student reps. So I'm sure we'll talk a lot about activities and athletics, but I wanted to let you know that we had 241 students who made the honor roll during Q2, which is really exciting because we increased our students earning a 4.0 GPA. We had 121 students earn that Q1, and 121 students earn that now, and 110 in Q1. So just really proud of students really trying their best and reaching for the next goal. As I'm sure you're aware, because Joe is amazing at highlighting our programs, but it's CTE month, and last night we hosted CTE night. I want to shout out to Tammy Ingwerson, who's our academic advisor and a million other titles at PHS, but she organized a wonderful event last night where we had a full house of prospective families come and check out our CTE programs. I want to shout out to our CTE teachers who not only are just experts in their field, but also do a lot of extracurricular. And so those people, in case you haven't met them, are Celine Fairmont, who is our business and marketing teacher. She also is our DECA advisor, and I'm sure you're going to hear more about DECA here in a little bit. Jesse Holcomb is our welding and manufacturing advisor and teacher. Chris Flower is our digital media teacher. He also is in charge of our PHTV announcements. Cameron Noble is our automotive technology person. If you need an oil change, he's your guy. Well, our students are your people, but he's the guy who makes sure that happens really well. Melissa Madsen is our agriculture teacher, and she also is our FFA advisor. David Ford is our construction teacher. He's also our Skills USA chapter coach. And John Barber is our culinary teacher, and he cooks the students, cooks a mean pizza that we got to eat last night. So just a highlight for those programs. Also, last week was SRO appreciation, and we know that Sergeant Hull is awesome and we really appreciate him, but I wanted to shout out and let you know about an article that SOU wrote about a recent grad. We posted it on our social media, but Annabelle Delgado is at SOU, and she attributes her next steps to conversations and interactions with our SRO, Erin Hull. And so not only are our SROs keeping our students safe, but they're inspiring them to get involved in their next steps. So I wanted to shout out to him. We also sent students to the Black Youth Leadership Summit today at SOU, and our crew came back super jazzed and excited. They actually already started talking about their next event, where we're actually going to host other BSUs from the Valley at PHS for some community and brainstorming about how we can empower
our students to be great allies. We're really excited that it's gonna happen on Friday. I'll let you know details as soon as those have been ironed out, because they just got back, so. And last from PHS, I just wanna shout out to our coaches and advisors who had to be extremely flexible with snow days, and to James for being on the phone constantly, reorganizing trips and hotels. Everyone's had a really positive attitude, despite all of the changes, and I just wanted to shout out to all of them. And that's it for PHS.
Thank you, Board. Shauna mentioned earlier that immunization exclusion day was yesterday, so I really just want to publicly thank our office staff. They started working on this in the fall, and we had all but one of our schools, including our charter school and online school, that had 0 exclusions. And we only had 10 total district-wide, which is not too bad. So that's a lot of hard work. So thank you to our office staff as well as Charlie Hatton at the district office and Jackson County. We work very closely with Health and Human Services. I also want to thank Douglas at ESD. That's who we contract our early childhood special ed services with, and invite you next week, next Tuesday at 5 o'clock. We're going to have our first ever introduction for our incoming students that will be on IEPs from early childhood. There's a big difference between a family plan and an IEP, and these are our families that are going to be with us through this long journey. And so we're meeting together to explain the difference. We'll have games for the kids, and so thank you to Stacy and Darcy with Douglas ESD for that too. And then I heard a thank you to Figaro's, and thank you again to them on Monday. Figaro's is doing a fundraiser for our family math night, so if you buy a medium pizza, the money goes to family math night. That's really kind of them. And you can also round up your change all month to go to family math night too. And I know this fundraiser for Disney Club, the Figaro's. Do you know when that's happening?
Yes, the 28th, Friday night, 5 to 7. $5, it's like $2 a person or $10 max for the whole family.
Oh.
And then there'll be all kinds of fun activities and yeah.
Which is great. So thank you for Figaro's for supporting.
Yeah, they've come up a lot, like a big supporter of ours, so yeah. Their pizza will be heavily featured as well. Real quick, Tiffany, just a sentence or two on what is exclusion day, just for those who may not. I know most people may know, but just. Yeah.
So the state of Oregon requires immunizations for public school students to have. And so every year we have that date where students who are either not up to date on their immunizations or their families have not completed the modules to exclude them from exclusions. So they have to watch the informational videos and print off a certificate with the state, or a doctor can exclude a child for medical reasons. So it's just that one cutoff date that kids aren't allowed in school until all that documentation is there. So it's a lot of tracking. A lot of immunizations to record in our PowerSchool system, and then we report it to the county. And so we work very closely with them.
Yeah.
But it's a difficult process, and it's a lot of phone calls and a lot of work and stuff.
Thank you.
It's next. We want to boost our attendance and not exclude kids from school.
Right. Yeah, it's a big deal. Thank you. Anything else, Amy?
Good evening, and I'm actually gonna come up because I was late and I meant to be earlier, but I printed off a little bit of these. You guys just wanna kind of take a peek at them. And I just wanted to thank the elementary principals and their wonderful office managers again for all of the help, and especially Joe for getting out the news for the future staff. We had 18 entries, and I'm happy to say 9 of them will be cooking with us March 20th. So we're really excited for that. It's main dish this year, so there were so many good ones. Always hard to pick, but I'm really excited about the ones that we have. I'm also really excited to share the results from our elementary voting table. So we had all 3 elementary schools participate. We had a lot of kids come over to the tables, and it was just really a lot of fun. And I have to give a huge shout out and thanks to all of the lunch aides actually, because that day makes a lot of chaos, but fun chaos for everyone. And you know, getting speakers for telling us how they feel about their food. It was just a really fun event. And as you'll see, we had 90 to 97% of the kids say that they liked it and loved it for what they had on their menu that day. Last, I want to thank Yasmin, Debbie, and Mauricia and Rachel for all of their work with me and continued work coming up here as we work for this National School Lunch Program admin review. It's a lot that goes into it, and I'm just really lucky to have great partners to work with to do it.
Amy, if I could just say thank you to you. I know that delayed start dates are quite an adjustment for you and your staff. And I know there was, I won't name them, but there was a district in the Rogue Valley that just didn't serve breakfast during their delayed start date. We did. So thank you for that pivot and for flexibility of your team too.
Well, thank you. I also have to refer back to the principals though too, because without their coordination
Yeah.
with us to help adjust the schedules and make it work, it
Yeah.
still wouldn't all come together, so.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anything else from the board? Huh?
Okay, these are delayed and I apologize. Because the last time I was off my, whatever, routine.
Off your what?
Off your routine.
Let's clarify.
I would like to thank, Brent and Tiffany and Yasmin and a whole bunch of other people, because I have been asking a ton of very specific questions when I have gone to Washington DC and Salem. That's why I'm off my routine, because I've been traveling. And so I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate, the other day I was looking at curriculum and Javier stopped by. I like having conversations when I'm in district office or in what, it really, really helps me. Like sometimes that conversation, I use it 2 months later in Salem. So I really appreciate staff and Brad letting me ask staff all these like really intricate questions about this and that. And I really appreciate it. And you guys make me all look smart, but I give you all credit. I'm like, this is not me, this is staff, with that. So secondly, I would like to say kudos to Jessica Rawlings for our art program. Almost every year when I go to DC, the little like thing that we want to do is go in the tunnel, because you're in the tunnel, and that's where the student art is. And every year we have student art in that tunnel, and I get to brag for a few minutes. And so the student art this year was Tyler Korea. And they did a strawberry picture, which was amazing. And in Representative Bentz's office was a book, and all the art in that book was, and it was a nice little picture and description of the thing. So I also, they asked me to go with a group from Eugene with their representative, because they needed somebody that had been to DC a few times, and they picked me. But their office, because each office gets to pick the artist, so for each district, and the Eugene people didn't even know about the contest, and they were like, I'm like, what? We're winners every year, you know, a little brag. So thank you to staff, for Jessica for doing that, and thank you for staff for being involved, that we are on top of it, and our students are getting the opportunities that some students in Oregon are not getting, but maybe they will now, because now their board members are smart. So. Informed. Oh, about that. Sorry, I didn't mean they were not smart. They're very intelligent board members. They just had never heard of that before. So.
I would just like to thank you for taking all these trips, advocating for us on a national level, and I think it's a dual benefit, right? With advocation for public ed in general, for our district, but also what you're able to bring back in your role as a board member of our district. It's just, it's a blessing, and I appreciate your willingness and your family's sacrifice of your time when your kids are all graduated. I don't think I have to remind you, but I, for one, am very thankful, because I wouldn't have the time or capacity to go to Washington DC right now. So thank you so much, truly. Any others?
I have, mine is a little delayed, but some of it was because we had a virtual meeting in between. But I just want to say thank you to all the admin from the information at the JAB meeting. Because, and I want to thank you, Brent, too, as well, because at the end of each of your presentations, you automatically had a slide of how we could support you. And that was a real reflection of an ask from this board. And so I just really appreciate your transparency and your really willingness to share what's really happening at school and how we as a board can support you without even having to ask. Like, we didn't even have to ask that question at the end of each presentation. So what do you need? How can we support you? It was just part naturally of your presentation. So thank you. Thank you for your transparency in that. And then I have a little local theater shout out. There are 3 Phoenix alumni on the cabaret stage, or there were this last weekend. So Julia Funk, who was Julia Holden Hunkins when she was in school with us, Rigo Jimenez and Courtney Crawford were all in Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder at Cabaret. And so just really a testament to the longstanding and theater programs that we had heard requests from current students to bring back. So I just wanted to give a little shout out for that.
Thank you.
I'd like to express gratitude to the incredible, coordinated, sophisticated, sometimes messy, but always fun group and players that make our education system so rich. It's not perfect by any means, but thinking about the snowpocalypse, it's quite impressive. You know, there's people at 5 a.m. On the call or on the phone figuring out what the weather's gonna look like to not only keep our students safe, but to keep our staff safe as well. And I just heard, you know, that there was like hotel changes and game changes and all the things. And there's so many things that go that we never even have to think about. The parents never even think about as well. But there's really dedicated individuals that show up so fiercely with such a heart of service and love and kindness. And it's really because of you that we are able to just, I mean, this role feels easy when all of you get to do the work that you do. And I'm just really, really, really grateful as a parent who has a kiddo in this district. I am so grateful for all the opportunities that they have to participate, engage, learn, and there's always things that are happening that I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that you are in this school district. And I'm also especially grateful for Denise, who is our silent angel, who makes all the things happen for all of us. But it just reminds me that every one of you have or are such a special blessing to make sure that this works. And again, not perfect, but it is an effort to just continue to make it better. And then I'm so grateful to have all of you here. We've missed you.
Yes.
It's so nice to have you. And I know that you've all been busy supporting sports, or you have all kinds of deadlines or work. And I'm just really, really thrilled and fortunate to get to work and learn from you. So thank you.
We accentuated the heck out of the positive tonight. Let's move to right now.
30 minutes later.
Yeah, let's move to our student representative report. We have everyone here. Welcome.
So, off of this process, I went to the CTE night and helped out and like gave tours and had a group of those school boys, which is always fun. But they all seem really fun, especially with like the auto shop and like food. It's really cool. Like they all like just the look on their faces, you can see how impressed they are and how excited they are. I think that's just like such a good opportunity for them to get a good idea. Like I know when I was in 8th grade, I went to the CTE night. It got me really excited to go to high school. So I think that's great that we do that. And I wanted to give like a shout out and a thank you to Ms. Robin, who's once again working from home and doing so much for leadership, even because got so much to do and so really hard when she's not in the building. And then also Ms. Green, who's been subbing for her class almost all the time, as long as she can. Just like helping lead all of the classes for Ms. Robin. And then our president and vice president, Rena and May, who have also been such a huge part in organizing everything, making sure we stay on track teaching the class, all that. And then our tennis courts are like, I think they're pretty much finished. They like need to be like painted or something, but they're like done, which means everyone's super excited. The tennis program is thrilled. I know Ms. Green, I can't stop talking about it in your leadership. And last night at CTE night, Mr. Ford was talking about how we're getting a pizza oven and how they're starting it, like a fire pizza oven outside. And he was just thrilled and ecstatic, and the kids were loving it, and that's what I have to say. So yeah.
Hi, my name is Rachel. For my accentuate the positive, me and Abby Corona are co-chairs of the Sparrow Club at our school. And currently for our Sparrow, Emiliano, him and his family are going through a pretty hard time right now. And so to kind of support them as best we can, we are putting together a little gift basket for them. And like a card from all of leadership to just send off to them to send our love. And we're always working on like fundraisers and everything for them. So just shout out to them, we love them. Most of you probably already know this, but for our cheer group, we went to state last weekend. And we placed 4 out of 13 teams. First time Phoenix has competed in a long time. So shout out to our coaches and to all the girls that made that possible. And also shout out to Mr. Joy for organizing all of the postpones and everything because of the snow. It was switched around about 3 times on us. So thank you to Mr. Joy for organizing all of that. He's over there. And then I also wanted to talk about the therapy for students that is offered through Clinica. I have a friend that was like really going through a hard time, and she was like, man, I don't have anyone to talk to. And I was like, you should go get one of our therapists. And she was like, I didn't even know we had that. And so when I got her in touch with them, it took a few weeks for her to get in, but she had her first appointment a few days ago and was like, that was amazing. And so just a thank you to Clinica for the work that they do, because it really supports students, even if they don't think it does, like it really does.
So I'm glad you told her about it.
And then this cross kind of stole my fire, but I was gonna talk about the BSC Summit. Yeah, we are working on a barbecue night between a bunch of the other BSU groups. And I know Bria is very enthusiastic about this, and she's loving the planning, and yeah, we're thinking about not this Friday, but the next, and more details will come with that. Then we also had our Valentine's Day sale for leadership, which was a pretty big success. We have lots of lip suckers to sell, but it's still very fun, and we love doing candy grams where students can send little candies to all their friends throughout the classroom. It's really fun seeing all the little young loves.
And I'll say that the way they deliver those is actually very funny. Like if you order one for a friend, they'll come into your classroom and say, blank or blank, sending you love, and it's like someone with like a big costume and like ears and making it a scene, and it's fun. But good afternoon, everyone, and I'm really happy to be here this afternoon. And also kind of going off of what you said, I'm pretty sure that those that helped make the pizza oven with Mr. Ford have their name on the oven, and also get like free pizza every time they come to a game.
Oh.
Pretty
How do we
sure.
get our name on it? How do we donate to get our name so we can get free pizza?
Great incentive. Said at the board meeting, so it must be true.
Make sure about that.
Heard from Mr. Ford, so.
Well, then it's definitely.
Like, that's great. Boys basketball right now is second at Skyline in the rank 15, so that's something to shout out. And actually that's girls basketball, and boys basketball is tied for first in Skyline in the rank 12. So that's really good for everyone. Yeah. The basketball team has grown a lot, and also the cheer team has grown a lot, so that's also really good to see. Boys wrestling right now is traveling to district, and I'm pretty sure that their championship is at Henley on Saturday. So that's exciting for them. I know that they've been working hard, so wishing them the best of luck right now. And right now in our English classes, they've introduced a new program called Brisk. And it basically helps improve your writing and through AI and we've used it actually, I've used it once because I helped test on it. And it's actually really cool. It takes like all the suggestions that your teacher wants to look for or the criteria in the rubric. And it basically generates responses and critiques to your writing and see how you can improve it. And then it's double checked by one of the teachers. It just makes the job for the teachers easier and we get feedback a little bit faster. Or if we want to get feedback before turning something in. So that's really cool.
I want that too.
Another thing I really want to talk about is OSAC. We had the early bird deadline, so
That's right.
that's February 18th, and then that basically also allows you to go in for another $1,000 scholarship. Enters you into that, and the FPC has really been helping out with that a lot. And swim had a lot of records being broken. So we had River Delco in the 100 breast. He set a school record for that, and then Gail Decker, River Delco, Quinn Davis, and Kyle Potts in the 400 relay. So that's amazing. And the last thing I want to talk about is DECA. So we leave on Saturday. I leave tomorrow, and our state conference is here, so we have around 20 people going to that conference, and we've been preparing for all year, so it'll be fun.
I'm excited to hear this result.
Yeah.
There'll be plaster all over everything. Just that's all I should tell you. I'll be there.
Yeah, that's all I have.
So was it last week, Rachel? Yeah, so last week's science SBAC was the first state testing they did. And they like prepped them with a little assembly in the theater, and then they gave out popcorn. It's kind of like a treat and a little motivator. And then something else really cool that I just learned about last week is that Maurice came into my science class. It was the first one he came into, and testing this new software that we bought called Naviance. And it has like a personality test, and you like learn a bunch about your personality type and what things you can do to help improve your productivity and your efficiency as a person, and what things might help you like just with homework time and all sorts of stuff. And it also recommends career paths for you. And I think he said something about how it helps like with class scheduling. And it's just it was kind of, we were the test dummies because it's not super helpful for 12th graders now because we're graduating, but for 8th through 12th graders in the next few years, it's going to be a really big tool. There's like an organizer there for what you need to get done for senior year, depending on what you're doing, like scholarships and applications. I just think it's a really great tool that I would definitely have used if it was around when I was in my freshman year. So that was really cool.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate all the updates. Next is going to be, I don't know, do we have anyone here from PTEA or OSCA to share an update for the board? Doesn't look like. Anyone online?
I don't think.
Okay. Citizens' comments, anyone in the audience who wishes to address the board? Anyone online?
The lady online is reaching. I don't know if that means she does or not.
Yeah,
She does. Peggy from online raised her hand.
Okay, great. Peggy, if you could just say your name and any organization you represent, and you have 3 minutes.
Might have to unmute it. Oh, I think she's having technical difficulty.
Okay, I think you're muted. Before you, I just have to read this real fast before we speak. As a reminder, school board meetings are meetings of the school board held in public, not meetings with the public. As a general rule, the board will not engage in discussion with the public during this portion of the meeting. When your name is called, come forward and state your name. If joining virtually, please use the raise hand feature, address and identify the organization, if any, that you represent. Keep your remarks brief and respect the 3-minute time limit. Complaints about staff members cannot be discussed in open session and must be handled through a complaint procedure. Are you still muted, ready to go?
Still muted.
Okay. Peggy, did you wish to speak today? Peggy, are you able to hear me? Can you give a thumbs up? Oh, did you wish to speak to the board tonight?
No.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Sorry.
She didn't know you were talking.
Okay, sorry about that.
Sorry.
And I read that whole thing. Just, it's been a while since we've heard it, so, okay. Superintendent report.
Thanks, Chair Campbell. I just have a couple of things. One, being, as you know, it is time every couple of years we do our integrated guidance and student investment account outreach. So we have a survey developed and we're making plans to really have focal groups and get as much information as we can on the community's desires on how we utilize our integrated guidance funding, especially student investment account. And just a reminder, some of those funds have been going towards our music program, especially at the elementary. We have counselors and our mental health supports. And so those are the things that we're getting feedback on as well. And if there's anything else that the community would like us to see with those funding sources. So we're doing that. Thanks to Aaron for kind of facilitating that and creating schedules. We will have a plan to the board. I think the second meeting in April that we'll talk about, because I think it's due at the end of April, that plan. So look forward to share that information and gathering feedback from all the students, board, and our community. Also want to highlight, thank Kelly Soder. There's a Heart of Phoenix event last night with a number of people that were at the Civic Center, probably 25-ish organizations and community members that had tables. We had our Phoenix Town Schools table there, handing out some swag. The community kind of was able to drop in, but I think the biggest value, and for me at least, and was really walking around to all the other organizations and meeting people. I knew a lot of them just from being partners with our school district for many years, but there was also some new ones that it was great to introduce ourselves and get to know what they are doing in the community as well. So those are the only things I had. I'm so happy you're excited about Naviance, by the way. It is a new tool that we're purchased that really will help streamline and help efficiency and really help guide our kids. So that is music to my ears. And we'll share more about that program as our testers continue to test it, but really excited about it. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions? I just had a question.
Yeah.
On the risk, is that a tool that an individual teacher is using, or is that something that's kind of been widely adopted?
You wanted to?
Sure, so it's actually something that our whole school is using. It has a variety of features. So one is like what Javier told you a little bit about, but we're also using it to help us create accommodations and modifications for students on IEPs, 504s, GIEPs. And so it just helps. This is a tool to streamline some things for staff and to create some ideas around that. And we're sentence frames for ELD students, all of those kinds of things. So,
Awesome.
yeah,
Cool.
really awesome.
Yeah, I was excited to hear. Okay, next is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented. Second that.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Nancy. Any objections? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. Information and discussion, legislative OSBA updates.
Oh, goodness. So there, this week, there was a hearing on special education. And I think the main point is that everyone wants to raise the sped cap, because right now, currently, the sped cap is 11%. Our district is currently at 17, unless that changes, because it seems like it changes all the time. But, but the thing is that the money comes out of the actual budget. So if you raise the cap and you don't add more money in there, you're just kind of like moving things around. As Sarah was telling me, it's like called thinning the soup, like you're just kind of changing things. So there's been a lot of really good information going to the House Education Committee. And there's a video that I haven't watched the whole thing, but it explains a lot from ODE, and it has a lot about budgeting. And so if school budgeting is one of the things that you're interested in, I would recommend watching this 1-hour video. If it's not, then I can give you the cliff notes, I suppose. Sarah and I sent out a call to action about SB Bill 916 about striking. It would change the way striking is uncompensated, which can cost districts quite a bit of money. It's for all things in Oregon, and so, but schools are kind of done differently than, because we have to make up days, and we can't just close the doors and say, we'll reschedule you like a doctor's office might be able to. We have to make up those days. So it's a little bit of complications on that. Our federal wise, there's a whole bunch of things coming. Sarah and I also sent out the newsletter, and there's a nice little website that tells you District 2, which is our district with Cliff Benz, is the district that gets the most federal funding. And so I would recommend, if federal funding is important to you, to reach out to his office. He is now starting to do town halls, and hopefully he'll do one closer to here. Very few people I've been in contact with the last couple days. There's been 4 town halls, and very few people are bringing up education at his town halls. So if education is important to you and funding, again, there's questions of how different funding is going to come through to the state. And so I think that's important to just emphasize how important federal funding is to our district. When I was in DC, it was a big topic, and one of our colleagues up in Portland said, you know, will you be okay? Because they don't get Title I money. They not all of their kids are on free and reduced lunch, but like us, we do, and it makes a huge difference. So I think it's really important to let them know. And then on March 9th, in Medford, it's on a Sunday from 3 to 5. Krista Miles from OSBA is coming down, and we're working with the Oregon League of Women Voters. I think I got that right. And having information about what a school board member does, what they can and can't do, questions if you're going to vote, what kind of questions you should be asking. And I think it'll be really informative. I know a lot of people are wanting that, so I would recommend it's around the website, or you can ask me. And I think Joe is putting out some information shortly, so that's something good to know. I don't know if Sarah or Brent want to talk about.
No, I will just say that we are sending out a weekly email to try to recap what bills were heard in the Senate and House Education Committees, and then there's 2,500 bills in the legislative session this year, and 600 that touch education. And so the bill that Don referenced earlier is actually in the Labor Committee. So even though they would touch and impact education, they're not in front of. So Dawn had this great idea to put our notes in a podcast form so you could listen to them instead of read them. And so we're working on that. So once she gets that beta tested a little bit, give some feedback so that we can find out if this is helpful to keep the district informed. Because we figure you can listen to it on the way back and forth to work versus sitting down to read another email, we can all get really bogged down in that. So it's AI generated, so don't think that it's like us. The Dawn and Sarah show, it's not that. It's, so anyway.
So no theme songs?
No, oh, there you go, you were writing for us. In your free time right now, we would love a little Steve intro.
We're about 90% good. There's a few things I have to iron out. And so if anyone's really a good AI expert in Notebook LM, that would be awesome. But we're about 90% there. But I learned it in DC, and I think it's a really great tool that we might, as a district, want to have fun with it too. But I still working out the bugs. Yeah. So watch for that.
I wanna say thank you for doing that. I went to that committee meeting, education committee meeting that, I don't know how you go to it, you watch it online.
Oh, yeah.
Online, right?
Yeah.
And I heard then the soup and heard what that was, and I thought there was really great questions that they were asking. The presenter, couldn't tell you what his name is, Mark. Yeah, but I thought it was really informative, but I'm really grateful for those recaps, and then I try to go put it in my calendar, the link, whatever, you know, to go. And
Yeah.
I can't wait for that actually to mind. Like about a teaser. I just want to share my appreciation. I know they were up there at the Capitol Monday and so we had some Phoenix Talent Education leadership up there as well, which was great. I was asked by the Children's Institute to be up there to advocate for early learning resources, and it is a tough legislative session for funding and competing priorities, but just appreciate the time that you all are spending at the table and sharing with legislators who are making tough decisions, and just realizing that. But our stories, I think, and when we talk about our kids and tell our stories, I think that's compelling and that's what sticks. So thanks for taking the time on that. That's all we have.
Thank you very much. Next is financial report.
Yeah, we'll share a little bit of the update you have in your packet, and starting to kind of drill down some information as we continue to reconcile and see how this year is shaping up and setting us up for the future.
Good evening, board and everybody. Can you all hear me? Use the microphone. I have a very low voice, so. Okay,
It's all right.
good. So, what you have in your packets, we updated the numbers for revenues and for expenditures with what we have right now in our system. So, if you compare it to last time I gave you a report, it was in November, it's about $1 million more for ending fund balance than what we're projecting. The reason why, for revenues, actually, the state school fund, I adjusted it a little bit because our ADMs are lower than we have projected. I know that, for example, the enrollment for Armadillo is part of our ADM and it's been going down. And so I went ahead and adjusted our numbers, so it's a little bit lower. Also, property taxes, we're not receiving as much as we anticipated. And we actually had also 56,000 potential refund credit that because Charter Communications is contesting their values. So the property tax value, so we don't know if it's about almost $60,000. I don't know if at the end of the year, we're gonna receive that money back or if it's lost. So anyway, because of that, I went ahead and adjusted the property tax revenues as well. So with that, the ADM security money is going to be about 94,000 more than what they had given us before as an estimate. Thankfully, the reconciliation for the 23-24 allocation was already signed and done. So it's that increased the revenue and offset it a little bit, so it's not as bad with the loss on state school fund and property taxes. Now, for the expenditure side, I was just analyzing in salaries, we have about 400,000 less than we're projecting. So just drilling down the numbers, I realized that there were a lot of positions that either the person retired or didn't come back to the district and they were a higher level on the salary schedule, and they were replaced by people that with less experience. So it was a lot less money. Other than that, Also, we had a few, like about 4 FTEs that were transferred to grants. For SIA, we had a carryover from the year before that we needed to spend by June 30th. So some of those positions, FTEs, were also shifted to SIA in other grants. So that kind of makes our ending fund balance out of balance in a way. And that also affects the associated payroll cost, because if you don't have salaries, it's going to also affect that. We also had a big difference on insurance, because some of the new members or new employees didn't take insurance, so then we also had a big difference, it's about 492,000.
Oh, wow.
So we do have lower expenditures at this point, and that's why we have a 9.7 ending fund balance that we're projecting. Okay. For capital projects, it's adjusted right now. We have about $2.3 million available to spend for the remainder of the year and more. I went ahead and also changed the projections based on revenues, the interest and the TMS solar grant. I talked to John about it, and we're expecting that it will be done for June 30th. So we're hoping to spend all those funds and the revenues will receive before June 30th. So estimated at the end of the year, it will be about $1.8 million that we'll have left over for the bonding money. And for construction exercise, we haven't been spending that much. So right now, we have about $625,000. We were able to deposit $167,000 on Energy Trust rebates received for some of the bond projects. So we went ahead and put them on the construction excise tax fund. So that's going to help us for the future. So right now, my projection for the end of the year is going to be about $663,000. Okay. And that's it for now. Have any questions?
Questions?
Just a comment that you are doing amazing. I know you've been helping me with state and federal, and then with negotiations, and what you do is like, I have no idea how you do it, but you do a great job and you explain things so well, and I really appreciate all the hard work that you do.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I'll make another comment just about ending fund balance, and obviously that's ADM security, but it's also, I've mentioned in here, leveraging other funds to really maximize what our general fund dollars are going to, and how we can maximize those for the future, spending money on that we need to on grants. And shifting that, and that's a constant discussion with Tiffany, Jessica, and Yasmin, and myself on making sure we're maximizing that so we can utilize every dollar. So because ESSER grants go away, Biennium SIA and Measure 98 grants, you need to spend by June 30th. So really making sure we don't leave any money on the table. So thank you.
I have one. So to backfill the ADM security grant, right? There's a bill up now because it was short.
Yes.
So we have not received the 24-25 allocation yet.
No,
She says with the question mark.
Yeah.
Okay, so is this ending fund balance
To be
reflective
honest with you,
of
we haven't
receiving
received the
it or
23,
not?
24 yet either, have we?
No, so the contract was signed.
Yeah.
Fortunately, so what I have included here is for the 23-24 allocation,
Okay,
which is supposed to be received by the end of this year.
okay.
Like I said,
The
we
end
already
of this
signed the
calendar year?
contract. What's
Or
that?
school year? The end of the calendar year or the fiscal year?
This school year.
Okay.
And
This school year.
for the 24-25 allocation, the grant ends on June 30th, 2025. But last time I talked to somebody from ODE, they're expecting to fund that until the summer of 25-26. And we'll be allowed to spend those money throughout the whole year.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So it kind of gets another year. So 23, 24 is utilizing for this year,
Okay.
24, 25 allocation will put us into next year because we won't have that funding.
Okay,
And to answer your question, we are short on that allocation. That's why that first bill and looking at trying to do that the reconciliation in that way too. And I'm pretty confident we'll get that. we'll know in the next few weeks if it's gonna be reconciled or actually have to go through legislative action.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Academic calendar for 25-26.
Yeah, you have a proposal here, and I'll just do some highlights and share this with both associations and heard back from classified, haven't heard back from licensed staff yet, but just some highlights. We have been doing a 7-day in-service. We put those back into instruction in this calendar, so we're back to the traditional 5-day August in-service. Another notable change is we typically have our in-service day on a Friday. Typically it would have been the 10th and this October 10th in this calendar. We've moved it to the 13th because we've had some Indigenous People Day. There's banks are off and other federal agencies are off as well. And so we had some comments about if we could have that day off. So we moved our in-service day to that. Staff will be working, but students will be off. And that's what request we had from our families. In addition, you may know, in this year's calendar, we have Friday before Memorial Day as a non-contract day. Well, this year's calendar this time as a non-contract day because we're going to decide on that here in a little bit. I've moved that day to November 10th. That Veterans Day is a Tuesday, so it's kind of a weird go to school Monday, off Tuesday, come back Wednesday. We've moved that non-contract day to the 10th, so that's a longer weekend there for families and staff. And then it puts us out to ending on a Friday still, which is good and not pushing us into that next week. I think those are a little highlight. The other thing we did do is we started everybody on that Tuesday right after Labor Day. I know there's some kinks to work out. This schedule still reflects that. And we're working with our incoming 9th graders and incoming 6th graders to make sure we continue to have a solid plan for those transition programs. So, but that's what this calendar represents. And if there's any questions, I'll entertain them, or if you have questions between now and when we take action, or at our next meeting, feel free to share.
I have a question about and I can ask this later too, but the last week of school having a lot of half days, it seems like we lose a lot of kids as far as probably attendance because 8th grade recognition and then a half day or, all of these half days. Is it possible to shift to increase those instructional minutes or do something to combine, or I don't know? Does it make sense to do something a little different and not have the end of the year be half days?
Anything's possible, first of all. And this, especially that Friday, the 5th, if it works out like we started talking about, because we're proposing a snow day makeup calendar that's different. That certainly can be changed to a full day if we don't need that for a senior project day, but we're still working out the details on that. I didn't want that to reflect here until we think it'll work this year, and if it'll continue to work, then we can certainly reflect that in there. And if that's a change that we feel like we can do, we can make that change.
My concern is, the end of June gets a little like, we're ready to be done with school anyway, and we need every instructional minute. And so if there's ways to maximize that even earlier in the calendar or not half days.
One of the questions I have, I know something that's been scuttlebutt I've heard discussed around graduation is doing, because currently the practice is in the morning of graduation, right? Would this calendar allow for doing the practice on seniors' last day before they go home?
That's one reason why, and it's not gonna work for our snow day makeup, but that was one reason when we're redoing that senior project. Is actually have that senior checkout, that senior practice. Now be able to maximize that Saturday by practice. Graduation in the morning, which we've talked about, more to have that whole day. The rest of the day, because otherwise it's a pretty full day right now, practice. And then the ceremony, so.
We can definitely maximize that afternoon that is traditionally a half day, we can maximize it in a couple of other ways. Yeah, Brett, talk about how we might try some of that this year.
Yeah, I think families would appreciate it.
And the other flexibility we could have, it doesn't mean that it just because high school's half day, doesn't mean every school needs to be half day too, so.
Can I ask a question about the instructional hours? So say we had that partial day, that abbreviated school day at the end of the Snowmageddon, right? And if a lot of students don't come to that day and they're still not attending, what, do they count if not very many people come, or how does that work?
They count for instructional hours, it hurts us on the attendance and the ADM rate and things of that nature.
Okay,
Which
I didn't know
was-
how that correlated.
And that day was not very well attended.
Yeah, I've heard from people that was, but I wondered how that impacted that.
It counted for
Yeah.
instructional hours, but it does hurt on some other, areas.
How was Monday after one attended? I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Everybody
okay,
was home.
I was curious about that.
Okay,
So we'll look at that, we'll take some of those things into consideration on that calendar today, and then we will bring back something. If something does change, we'll try to give you as much of a heads up as possible.
great. Renewal of teacher administrator contract.
Yeah, you have a list in your packet at this time, and it likely will change. We're still working with some staff members, and so we'll bring the updated list for action next board meeting.
Thank you. Snow day makeup option.
So again, so you have two options here. Option one essentially gets our instructional hours, assuming we don't lose any more school time. Gets our instructional hours above the limit at the high school, which is typically the one we have the least amount of leeway on. I will tell you, in the past, with our instructional hours, if we had one snow day, we'd be under. We had basically 3.5 snow days, and we are under, but not as significant as we could have been. So the proposal for option one is to institute a full day, Friday before Memorial Day, which will probably be 100% attendance of all students and staff. Hopefully that was a little bit of a joke. But that's why it'd be important to, get this to people as soon as possible. But if we do a full day on that Friday and then make our Friday, what is that there, the 6th, a full day, that'll get us back in compliance for instructional
What
hours.
month is that you're talking about, the as the day?
May.
Okay.
Could we do what we just talked about this year with that? Does marching out and practicing for graduation, could we make that educational?
It is already.
Okay, well, thank you.
We could have it a full day on the books, and we can make it as educational as we want,
Yeah.
in the afternoon.
I like it.
We can continue to talk about that.
Yeah, cool.
The option two, I just wanted to give you an option about, did you have a question?
So when do we do presentations then?
That is,
That's my question.
yeah, we will, there will be a plan for that, yeah.
You asked for the snow day, didn't you? You were excited about it, weren't you?
Yeah, I was, but I actually didn't ask for Thursday. I thought we were gonna go back.
I know, I think we all feel that.
I did not ask for Friday.
It will be that week in some manner for seniors, so.
Okay.
It maybe it's on an early, don't quote me on this, because I'm just a superintendent, but it might be on an early release Wednesday, it might be, somehow. But we'll make it, like the high school's talking about a bunch of
The
options.
good news is we're gonna work through this now, so you'll have 3 months.
And we hope the weather doesn't have any more snow.
Yes.
Option two essentially makes up, most of the time, that we missed, and it pushes our calendar out to being, our last day for staff on that Friday. And so those are the options that you can choose from, that we can, decide right now, or we can If you need more information, we can share some more information next board meeting, but I think the beginning of March, our next meeting, for action would give people time.
Yeah.
To do that.
I would like to hear student input
Yeah.
on these options.
Yeah, so what's the big difference between 1 and 2? Because what I see on 2 is that there's a couple more days in June, but there's only 2 makeup days on the first option.
Yeah, so good question. So the first option essentially gets us above the required instructional hours that were required by the state. It
Right.
doesn't make up all the snow day time we missed.
Right.
Option 2 actually makes up all of that time in the end of May and June that we missed. And so it gets us back to where we would have been in instructional hours previously. And it pushes out that last official day of school, instead of being on a Tuesday, the last official day of school would be on that Thursday.
And then if seniors graduate on the 7th, then I'm wondering if that still makes up, how that makes up.
It doesn't really impact the seniors. It would be, because they have enough, they're not required to have as many hours.
Okay,
And so in there, so that typically is after graduation that's their last requirement.
You wouldn't want to come back that much?
well, no, I was just wondering about instructional minutes, how that works.
That's a good question. Great question. But if you have the option, would you come back?
After graduation, I come back for 2 more days.
No,
Definitely not the seats there.
I wouldn't if I were you. You guys are dedicated. I appreciate it.
What do you guys think? Now that you hear the differences, what do you think?
I don't care because either way, I only have to make a big.
Okay, Ethan, Rachel, what do you girls think?
Obviously, because you not have as much school, but from every other student's perspective. But I also know that I don't think people are really gonna notice the difference if we have like 1 extra day of school. Cause on those last days anyways, we don't really do. No, if
They're
not,
not girlfriend.
I'm not trying to say we don't do much, but like wrapping it up, it's finishing the lessons. You're maybe taking a test, but you're supposed to have the lesson plan finished by then anyways. So I don't know that being in school either would be that. It would either be annoying to be in school or it wouldn't be that much of a difference because you'd just be in school and you wouldn't really be getting
Yes.
time learning in front of the teacher.
Is the last day of school for everyone still gonna be the same? No, like even if with the extra, I mean,
No.
Well-
So it'd be Thursday instead of Wednesday?
the only thing that I think of is like, I know there's some people that like have to go back with their parents if they like have like split custody or like have a trip planned or something like right after school, like they kind of like have that planned or they have like tickets. That's the only thing I could think of that would like be.
Option 2 would run into that because it would extend the school year for 2 days
Yeah.
for students and staff.
So here's how I look at it. It's still winter. So I kind of look at this like option 2 is a contingency in case we have.
Oh, okay, so that's,
And I want
Yeah.
every instructional minute we can have.
Yeah.
I want
there you go.
every instruction, sorry, I want every instructional minute.
Yeah.
Just so you know, we learning something.
We'll be taking that up for 6, so I'm sure. we'll-
just have to put the pizza in that oven.
Certified as.
We could be doing that.
Information discussion before we on it.
Yeah. We have a budget committee application, yay, and I had the pleasure of meeting with Mark individually. He's fantastic. Works at SMU, very involved parent of some students in our district and very interested in serving. So we will hopefully be interviewing. Denise, have you had correspondence with him yet or? Okay, I let him know that the way things would flow, so but if you just want to reach out, yeah, make sure he knows to be here, so okay. How we do we need to recess?
You should let everybody go.
Okay,
Cause
we're doing a quick 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Back, our first item, action item is the SOESD local service plan.
Yeah, this is every year, this time of year, we present this to the board and we discussed it a little bit last time, but I'm willing to entertain any questions. Scott Beveridge, Superintendent of EOC is here to answer any questions as well. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. Sorry the door was locked. I just got your text about the door was locked.
Oh, yeah.
We do like you being here.
Stuck out there. I know. You don't know anybody's number.
And we wonder why these are not all.
There is that.
But yeah, entertain any questions. This is virtually not much changes from last year, but represents kind of what the districts have shared. Entertain any questions. And I know Don had some questions that
I did. You guys answered a lot. I'm looking through to ask which ones I feel like I should say in public.
Okay.
Not that they were bad, just that some of them.
Why don't we do, why don't we give you let's do a motion and let's see if we have a motion, and then we can
Oh, yeah.
discussion can be part of the question if that works. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I move to approve the ESP 25-26 service plan and SSA comprehensive support plan as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, discussion or questions?
So I'll go first, I guess. So one is like this is like an outside off the wall question that Brett kind of answered, but sharing staff, like I know that we have challenges for like theater classes sometimes or music and stuff, and getting someone to do just 1 or 2 classes is really a challenge because, you know, it's usually during the day and who wants to, you know, work from like 1 to 3. And so I'm wondering if that has been a discussion throughout the superintendents and the schools about how to think outside this box, especially if we're going to have funding challenges, how some of the smaller districts can still give some classes and instruction that we want to, but with the help. So I was just wondering if that was, Brent kind of said that it was a little bit, sounded easier than it was, but I was wondering if there was any options or discussion about that.
I would say there hasn't been discussion about those particular areas. But the idea sounds fantastic as long as there's enough districts that are interested in doing a shared model. It's really something that we do already, right, with SOPs, PTOTs, psychologists, and even librarian services, right? So I think it's a great idea, and we could sure take it to the superintendents and see if there's interest with other districts in any shared positions. It's easy for us to add.
I think the time's right too, because people are in budget crisis too, and looking at if they can, you know, help consolidate some funds, that could be something that could be, the challenge would be, we all have different calendars and bell schedules and class, you know, or especially at the high school level, but again, anything is possible, and I think it'd be a great discussion to bring up for superintendents to say, hey, here's our challenge. Does anybody else have a challenge, this challenge, and do we want to try to create some solutions?
Yeah, and it might have to be a few people working half-time so they can travel from place to place.
Yeah.
But we've done models like that. Great idea.
I mean, even if it was like a half FTE in the spring, like in the fall semester, it was at one school for that production. And then in the spring, it was at another school for that production. So you could still have some continuity.
Yeah.
But it would be, instead of trying to balance schedules, if you did by semester, you could still offer it that way and get the concentration of the practice and then performance
Absolutely,
times.
yeah.
I think we have smart superintendents and that they could figure out a way to make it work. See, I'm just, no pressure. Yeah, we get tired and it's me, but.
Any other questions?
I have more, but I don't want to take it out. I'll just do it. In the service plan, it says, to support service stability and quality, each district agrees to a minimum of 30% of the district allocations available to ESD services. I guess I would like a little bit more information on what that means and yeah, could you explain it a little bit more? I was kind of confused. I read it twice and didn't understand
In
it.
fact, I could give you the history.
Okay.
Back in, I think it was about 17, 18, when we built more of this local service plan. There was a lot of conversation about school districts participation versus not being members of the USD. And so I'm building the model. One of the things that collectively the group decided would be, if you're participating with services with the ESD, there's a threshold that shows participation, and the number of 30% was picked for Phoenixtown School District. And we actually saw this with every school district. Once we settled on this core of the business model for the local service plan, district participation actually increased. And it had to do, I think, with choice. So by letting districts choose and moving a bit away from the core model, this participation increased. So Phoenixtown School District, I think, actually utilizes about 50–55% of the state school fund allocation that is set aside to spend on services. So you're far away from the 30% minimum. And that's not even counting the additional grants and contracts that we bring in through the Student Success Act, or I think librarian services are actually outside of that as well as a separate little contracted service. So there's other value added on top of the services you're using, and then the rest is distributed as what we call cash in lieu of services. That's passed through to your district to use in other ways.
Thank you. No, that was great, because I read it twice trying to get my head wrapped around it.
The percentages in terms of dollars, not necessarily like program or specific services.
It is exactly in dollars. So each service has a rate or a cost that is the actual cost. So we only charge the actual cost in school districts. By the end of the school year, we're able to determine what our actual costs are, their estimates throughout the year. By the end of the year, we do this calculation that we call come to actual. And then the actual costs are charged against the allocation, and then the balance is distributed. We actually do an estimated balance halfway through the year, and that's about to happen. So we'll get a portion of the cash into those services shortly.
Okay. Just one question I have is just with the prevalence of artificial intelligence and specifically generative AI, if that's come up in these circles of, because I think there's a real opportunity for the ESD to kind of be a bridge in that realm for districts, and in a way that maybe a district can't take it on their own, but that could be a function. So just curious, not necessarily related to this specific plan, but if that's come up and.
It has. It's a great question. Yeah, I appreciate it. So we as ESDs up in the north, we had a collective of the Portland area that launched an initial AI conference, and we actually, on behalf of the ESD, we funded representatives from each of the counties. So we serve primarily 3 counties, that's just in Plymouth, from districts, and they went up, and then those folks came back and formed a committee, and then we launched our own conference and support. We've always had a tech cadre for instructional technology, and so now the focus is AI.
Great, awesome, very cool. Okay, any other questions?
I have one more question and one more comment. And the question really isn't for Scott. I was just wondering, I appreciate all the feedback, and our district has given you guys a lot of feedback, and you guys have really done a great job at the feedback. And I'm wondering, like, if a lot of boards, there seems like there's a lot of gap in boards in our region, and I'm wondering if that's something that your board has talked about and about collaborating more with boards. I know you guys help host the fall regionals, but I was wondering if if you've heard of any talk where, that might be an interest of your staff or your board, where there would be more collaboration with board members to get input, maybe on, the ESD or just regional items.
I think I heard two things. I just want to use some active listening to make sure I heard what you said. I think you're saying, would the ESD be interested in specifically the board and maybe getting feedback from boards on ESD services? And also maybe even coordinating some and collaborating between boards that could increase outcomes for students across the school districts in the region. And I think it's a great idea, and I know your role on OSBA, and I'd love to talk to you more about that and connect you to our board, and I think it'd be a great thing to explore.
Perfect, thank you. That was it, I'm done.
Okay, any other discussion?
I have, how much does, I guess 2 questions. How much does ESD support, smaller districts that struggle with, reporting? We hear that as a barrier to additional mandates or additional, reporting requirements, and the amount of time that takes staff in a smaller district. I mean, we can always use our outlier Pinehurst as an example of additional report. So is that something that ESD supports, right, is support for the smaller districts with?
Yeah, it's another excellent question, and it's right on target. And in our Student Success Act support plan, one of the things we provide is specifically technical assistance to smaller districts to handle the reporting burdens. And so there's specific funding that we receive, and then we have a cadre of specialists that we bring in, and they work specifically to help with integrated guidance, reporting, et cetera, et cetera. So exactly, the multitude of small districts, and that's a service that we can provide to anybody, but it's predominantly funded very specifically for that. We can provide it in other ways through different funding mechanisms, but we do receive funding for the small schools just for them.
So I just recently learned about I'm gonna probably get the acronym wrong. CRDC reporting? Is that the federal data reporting?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Did I say it wrong?
No, I think it's, yes.
The CRDC reporting.
She's preaching over here.
Oh,
Civil rights data collection.
Right,
Yeah.
so is that another form of reporting that you support smaller districts with?
I believe that
I got real specific, didn't I?
Yeah. I think that we will help districts with any reporting. I
Okay.
believe that when this was formulated, it was more around some of the other increased reporting areas like integrated guidance, but yes, we do the CRDC. I think we just turned that in recently, if I remember.
I just had to ours
Yeah.
for our school, so that's why I was like, wow.
Yeah.
It gave a different perspective on data collection and reporting that I've heard for some years sitting on this board, but it gave me a deeper appreciation for what that actually means. And with school, can you just with school districts, Dawn and others, you know, we advocate for increased funding at the legislative level, and you have budgets as well, and you look at shortages in special education funding. In your district, I've heard you call a district of specialists. So how does serving the amount of needs in special education correlate with the amount of funding that you receive? Are you under, I guess, the cap of 11% as well, or how does that funding impact how you serve students through the district?
Yeah, I'll answer this and then tell me if I'm on target. So right now, I think you're hearing in the legislature proposals that there might be an increase or elimination of the cap to special education that's currently capped at 11%. And what would that do to state school funding? Likely there would need to be some additional funding that would be contributed because it will affect the weighted model. We don't receive funding per student in that weighted way. What we receive is about 4.5% of the state school fund allocation in the region that we serve. But it's. So in a way, we get it indirectly for all of the students in the region. Right now, that counts at about 48,000 students. Used to be about 52,000 students, and you know that there's been some decline in student enrollment. Actually, in our region, while there's less students, we're actually a higher percentage in the state.
But also, so, to that, does, ESD, I guess I'll use equity as the word, distribute the resources to districts who have a higher percentage of special ed students? So if there's a district at 19%, Phoenix Talent is at 17%, does it spread the money in a way? Sorry,
Yeah.
all of a
No,
sudden I didn't have these before, but Dawn, it's Dawn's fault.
So on page, I think it's page 9 of the local service plan, you'll see the core business model really fits on about 1 page. And it defines it the way that the allocation, the 90% of the state school fund allocation that we receive is put into allocations to the school districts based on last year's ADMR.
Okay.
It's not ADMW. So the reason why is historically that number was chosen because it tends to be more static and it's more predictable for districts on a year-by-year basis. It could be ADMW. It makes no difference to the ESD. We don't keep more or less money either way. All of the money through the local service plan by statute, 90% goes to services or cash to school districts. So that was just what districts agreed upon at one point in time and what we agreed upon back in 2017 and 18. That could change. It would just take all of the districts or the right number of districts that vote on the LSP according to statute to change that. But no, it is not currently distributed by EMW, it's distributed by EMW.
Thank you.
And we are a district that takes advantage of the technical assistance too. I know we have integrated guidance support from the ESD, so not just Butte Falls, Pinehurst, so we utilize that as well.
All right, ready?
Great questions.
Vote. Yeah, I just want to read it. Thank you for taking our feedback.
Yeah.
Last year. We really felt heard and really appreciate the consideration. So thank you. And I think that continues to. And the more I learn and serve on school boards, and I think about that time, that pivot that you made in 17, 18, that was a big deal. And I don't think I really even understood what a big deal it was at the time. And so really set up a nice foundation for what else can the ESD do to support school districts?
Also, the recent survey that Denise sent out about hearing from boards too, was also appreciated. Yeah.
Okay. Survey at the end of every year where we seek the input from school districts on satisfaction with services. Really excited by those results. We'll do it again this year.
Thanks. Well, I think it could just be the first year that I noticed that school board input, just maybe the first year I paid attention, that school board input looks like.
Yeah.
I guess just paying attention more, sorry.
Okay, Rebecca,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Dawn,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Holly,
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes, and we have a little special something. This is actually Scott's last time doing a social service plan with us. So after 30+ years in education and
Somebody
I
take a
think
picture.
10 years as an ESD superintendent, he's announced his retirement at the end of this school year. So we wanted to thank you for your years of service to our kids and to public ed, and we have a little gift for you here. So thank you.
Absolutely. Scott's always been willing to come and share and answer questions, and he supported our superintendents, and he's served 30 plus years in education and a decade as a superintendent. And so this is just our appreciation for all you've done, and enjoyed talking to you over the years, and just wish you well in retirement. Longest coffee break ever. I love that. So thank you very much.
We shouldn't have, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure what we were gonna do with that if it didn't pass.
I whacked it. It's not passed, but we're great.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, health education curriculum adoption. This is what got Tiffany out of bed today.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look.
I didn't
Rob-
think that
Oh, all of it.
Look at this.
Do I have a motion?
I move to adopt the health education curriculum as presented.
I second that.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Nancy. Discussion?
So I had lots of questions.
I bet someone has a motion.
No, and Tiffany was great. I went down, I spent an hour in district office and looking at the curriculum. It just was a quick thing. And one of the things one of the questions I did ask, and I thought that it would be relevant for the board and for public record, is Tiffany and I had a discussion when my kids were in the school, the teachers would say, this is our health curriculum, and they would send out information. And Tiffany assured me that that was still happening and that it's open for parents to have discussion with their kids. And I really, when I was going through the curriculum, for example, I didn't know that 4th grade was the year you should talk about baby. And I thought that was awfully young. And I talked to Tiffany and she said the youngest kid with a vape pen was 2nd grade. And then I did an AI search and asked AI when you should talk about baby. And we're doing it right about time, but that's something that I think some parents may not know. So I think it's important to talk to the teachers so you know, because I mean, the kids are around this stuff, and if you're a parent that isn't realizing that that's a conversation that needs, sorry, Michael, everything's starting early. But I think it's important, and I think a lot of that, when I was going through the workbooks and stuff that was sent home, I think it's really important. A lot of that stuff also was talked about, relevant for families, about getting along with their siblings, getting along with their peers, and so I think it's really important to have that collaboration between the teachers and the parents, so that I think it would benefit the kids. So that was the one. The second one, what was the second?
Can I add to that one?
Yes, please.
Because K-8, our Great Body Shop is what we use now. So the plan is to pre-order for the 7 years each month. So the curriculum comes in like these newsletter looking things.
Yes.
And we'll have enough in English and Spanish for every kid, and they'll bring them home then. And so there's like information on the back of how family can like expand the topics of health education. So these are really nice to have, especially with the younger ones who might not go home and say, hey, we have to talk about big things. But all K-8 for these handy workbooks that go home.
And do I understand that they'll update it each year and it will order it anew each year? And so, because the one I was just looking at the dates, when you can see it on paper, it's striking. Who knows what'll exist 7 years from now or even 5 years from now? So we won't be pre-ordering for the whole 7 years. It'll be kind of
We'll pay up front.
Right.
And they'll each month ship out the new ones.
Okay.
But, K-8 will be updated if there's like law changes or different things. And the Great Body Shop has been really nice about that.
Yeah.
So each month we'll get the new batch, but the scope and sequence will stay the same, that the board approves. The high school, however, like it's good old fashioned hardback textbooks that we'll be ordering. But there's an online version. And so if things need to be updated, like, you know, the science changes or there's new information we need to cover, that will be available to the students. Textbooks will be on our Clever account and they'll be online and in features of the pack. But the books are gonna be the books for 7 years.
Okay,
for high
yeah,
school.
yeah. Okay.
Don, I love how you ask these questions because I think it's important, so I hope that you don't apologize every time because I think they're great. But I love this response from Tiffany because I think the main point of this is having conversations with their kiddos about all kinds of things. People get really scared to have simple conversations, and I can understand that. Sometimes we don't know how to have those conversations. Maybe no one has ever talked to us. Maybe some topics feel really taboo or dirty or, what, fill in the blank. But we want to encourage kiddos to be lifelong learners, and we want to support kiddos with facts, and it's not intended to be scary, it's intended to be conversation starters. So I'm really grateful that we continue to have information, and as much as we might want to be like, "No, we don't want our kids, we want to keep them in a bubble," and that's very sweet, and I get that. Kiddos are also, we're living in a society that constantly is changing, that constantly brings really sad, terrible things to the forefront, and we want to shield kids, but we also want to empower them by having evidence-based conversations. We want to ensure that kiddos are able to ask questions and just engage in dialogue, especially with their parents or their caregivers, because we know that we have a lot of kiddos that live in all kinds of really beautiful family dynamics. So I'm glad that you asked that question.
And 2 or 3 of the workbooks talk about the family dynamics.
Yes. And it changes, and I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes people get really worried when you call parents anything other than parents, but I didn't live with my mom. I lived with my sisters, so they weren't my parents. And there's a lot of, again, family dynamics that it isn't necessarily shameful or bad or anything. We have so many beautiful kids that live in foster homes, and they're that family, right, for that time, or grandparents. So again, our world continues to change, and I'm glad that there's some tools to facilitate conversations. Yeah.
It sounds so, one of the questions I was gonna ask was about just implementation, particularly K through 8. It sounds like we're just sort of renewing what we've already been using, so there's not gonna be extensive new training that staff needs to do or anything like that. So,
K is the same that we've been using. The thing we'll do differently is currently offices order the materials in the fall for the year, and we'll order it from the district level and just have them delivered to the school. So I think it'll be more streamlined. We will purchase some training just because it usually comes with that like full packaging for August, really, but it's the same thing we've been using for many years. High school will take a little more preparation.
Yeah.
We need to take one test and make it into 2 classes over, and there's plenty of material in 2 grade levels.
Yeah.
But we'll give time to the health teachers to kind of plan what grade we're gonna do.
great.
I only have one more thing
Go
to
for
say.
it.
And this is this again. I was a little frustrated, not with the district, but that the state only gave us one choice. And that a lot of the times the parents, when they see curriculum, they think, oh, that board chose that curriculum. And we did, but then our choices are either have outdated curriculum, which is not great for kids, especially 7 years old, and they're trying to like go into that, maybe a health career or something, and they'd be behind. Or choose the one curriculum choice you have. So I just wanted to say, thank you so much for your time, Tiffany, but I am still a little bit frustrated with the state.
I mean, if the board chooses, we could also do an independent adoption, but that would mean kind of picking and choosing, and something with health is there's a lot of sensitive information. And so, when I approach that with administration, all the building administrators, it was feeling more comfortable to have a package that aligned with the state standards for it. Just because health is like something maybe different teachers might have different selections of, and just to keep it. But there was only one that met the standards, that's true.
And that takes a lot of time from admin that they could be doing way other things with, so I would not want to do that.
Just wanted to say,
So you could go with it.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear too that there's, won't be maybe as much, training needed to implement this, because that was my concern. Is it something that potentially we could push off a year if we wanted to dig a little bit deeper into strengthening our reading and math? This is something that, where's the time balance if we take another year with the curriculum that we have versus looking at investing in, the professional development time for another curriculum when we still have new English, new math, and a fairly new science curriculum, so, just really looking at the time. Change my mind.
I don't think she changed her mind, she just probably offered perspective that gave you.
Well,
Yeah, and I think that I love, that's part of the reason why I love that you're asking these questions, because I think we have perspectives based on a multitude of reasons, and it's great to be able to have those questions and get more clarity on how we make decisions. Curriculum, so, love it. You're bringing the unseen seen. Interesting curriculum. Very interesting.
I had a chance to look at it, a couple weeks ago. Good. Okay, Rebecca,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Polly,
Yes.
I vote yes. Curriculum is approved. Next is board policy AC, non-discrimination and civil rights. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve board policy ACE, non-discrimination and civil rights as presented.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Rebecca,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Polly,
Yes.
I vote yes. GBN AAJHFF.
I move to approve changes to board policy GBNAA-JHFF, suspected sexual conduct with students and reporting requirements as presented.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Dawn. Discussion? Becca,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Dawn,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Polly,
Yes.
I vote yes. Policy GCAA.
I move to approve changes to board policy GCAA, standards for competent and ethical performance of Oregon educators as presented.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Polly. Thank you, Dawn. Discussion? Rebecca,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Dawn,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Polly,
Yes.
I vote yes. JHFF.
Is that the same as K4?
That's what.
It's,
If they're in two
just in
different
sections.
sections, the ones that start with G is like staff and students, so that's why the beginning letter is the section in the policy book. They do it at 5.
the
Move to
motion.
approve
Is that right?
changes
Yeah, that's right.
to board policy JHFF GBNAA suspected sexual conduct of students and reporting requirements as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Sarah. Discussion? Rebecca,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Dawn,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Polly.
Yes.
I vote yes. Next meeting's agenda is there for your perusal. Phoenix High School, March 6th, we'll have our executive session meeting with Mr. Barry. How are we feeling about 5 o'clock start?
For because of what we got.
Is that enough time?
That's good.
I don't know, it was 4:30.
Barely.
Barely.
Yeah.
So do I hear 4:30?
Do we need to do 4:30?
How hard was that for you?
It was okay, I just.
I think the
I
tough
had
part
to
is
do
a couple of us have a meeting right before, but it's
Yeah.
at the DO. This
Well, Jim will must retire.
What day is it?
March
5.
6th.
No.
Oh.
It doesn't matter.
I think we'll be okay. I think 5 will be okay. I think we're good. We'll have to make it.
So, I had thought that we were doing PTEA and LSEA association updates once a month.
I'm sorry. Didn't hear you.
Association updates, were we doing those?
I thought we were alternating, one was one week and one was another, so that there wasn't one at every meeting, and that they each have the opportunity, but I didn't think we were doing every meeting. We had the opportunity tonight.
Can you go back and check the notes on, I think,
I thought we were supposed to do it every meeting.
I think that's right, I think it's the second one.
I think it's once a month.
Yeah, I think that's what we communicated.
Well,
Maybe not.
because you and I had this discussion because they'd already made out their calendar of who was gonna show up.
Oh, maybe, I'll go back and I have notes on it. I'll go back
Okay,
and check
I
it.
was thinking it was once a
I
month.
think you're right, yeah, I need to check my notes.
I think what we decided was to have the committee updates just once a month.
Mhm. Right, okay,
So committee updates were the first of the month, financial report was the second.
yeah.
The meeting of the.
And then
But the PTA, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I feel.
Let's look into it and confirm.
I think we talked about it, and I think she's right, we had already, well, I'll look at it. Did we have student reps, was that supposed to be before Situate Positive?
We had talked about it, but I don't know.
We didn't
if
make that
We
change.
didn't actually make the change.
What we talked about was, we did change, we moved discussion to after, or
Yeah.
before recess, that's what we wanted last year.
Yeah,
It
okay,
was, wasn't it that you guys didn't wanna go after
We didn't,
public comments?
oh.
Yes, so we did move the public
That's right.
comments.
yeah. It was about that we didn't want the admin to leave before we went over these things because
Yeah.
we said a lot of important things during
Oh.
That
that.
was the information.
And, yeah, and we moved that, so I'm pretty sure we did what we talked about.
Okay, so you're okay with the student rep reports being after accentuate positive?
Yeah, I think it's better to have it before citizen comments anyways, just in
Yeah.
case, because those can be heavy sometimes,
Mhm.
and then it's like, oh, yeah, let me talk about all these great things going on. Yeah.
That's right, okay.
All right.
Thank you for the clarification. Yes.
I
don't know if that's possible nowadays.
It was really bad.
It is. It is totally crazy.
Well, we're not, I don't know if there was a really full last year, but the OCP people, and there was like 40 people.
Well, like, where's STC?
Yeah. And then obviously, it's like, you know,